Hello everyone and welcome back to the Blackfoot Book Club and another edition of my essential film reviews collection. And here's last year's The Pale Blue Eye. The boundaries which divide life and death are at best shadowy and vague. Who shall say where one ends and the other begins? So begins my first new film of 2023, a gothic horror thriller whodunit directed by Scott Cooper, director of Crazy Heart, Black Mass and Hostiles, in his sixth outing in the director's chair. Based upon the 2003 book of the same name written by Louis Bayard, the opening 10 minutes lays before you the central narrative of the film, wrapped in a brilliant ensemble cast in a New York of 1830, enveloped in a midwinter deep in snow that I immediately drew comparisons with the cold bleakness of Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, the gothic darkness of Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, and with the central character in the guise of Edgar Allan Poe, I was also immediately drawn to the James McTeigue directed The Raven from 2012. The problem is, The Pale Blue Eye has a number of exceedingly good parts, but a rather disappointing whole. Attempting to piece together the macabre puzzle of a hanged man and a ritual death is an ensemble cast ostensibly led by Timothy Spall as Superintendent Thayer, although he's seemingly always called Colonel, of the West Point Military Academy, a stiff-backed authoritarian ably assisted by the wonderful Simon McBurney as his loyal rabble-rouser Captain Hitchcock. Toby Jones is almost immediately introduced as Dr. Daniel Marquis, a medical practitioner tasked with the autopsy of a dead body with a missing heart, and much later we are bestowed the pleasure of a brilliantly bizarre performance from Gillian Anderson as his eccentric wife, Mrs. Julia Marquis. Harry Lawty, Artemis Marquis, and Lucy Boynton, Leah Marquis, fulfil the Marquis family, as well as providing cameo support alongside the beautiful Charlotte Gainsbourg as Patsy and the magnificent Robert Duvall as Jean Pepe, a peculiar man who's filled with senseless fantasies, as can also be argued with the real star of this particular show, Harry Melling as Edgar Allan Poe. Melling imbues Poe exactly as you'd imagine, a scatterbrained artist and poet on the edge of fantasy and madness, romance and melancholic despair, and Melling is fantastic in support of the Ichabod Crane of our gothic tale, if you will, and whom are thrust together as well as being both alone in this world. Augustus Landor, Christian Bale. Constantly reinforced as a private citizen now, Bale brings his retired detective persona brilliantly to life, and always seemingly both in control as well as firmly in charge of the investigation. Despite being a mere citizen, Landor is deferentially treated as he's tasked with saving the honour of the United States Military Academy from the grisly and macabre murders that have taken the lives of a growing number of their cadets. A reformed alcoholic perhaps, Landor is very definitely a heartbroken and reclusive widower who also misses the light and love of a young daughter he calls affectionately Mattie, and who ran off in increasingly mysterious circumstances. Quietly spoken, loquacious, thoughtful, and with an intellect way ahead of its 1830 time frame, Landor is also a rule breaker with very little to lose, and Bale portrays his melancholic yet inquisitive air wonderfully. I didn't want them to confess, states our murderer late in the piece. I wanted them to die. And therein lies one of the film's many themes, alongside grief, despair, melancholy, and the religion of light and dark and the good versus evil that seeps through the film. The ritualistic removal of the dead men's hearts and the clues, letters and diary entries that lead to a magic circle alludes to satanic death rituals, black magic, and the occult wrapped in a gothic horror whodunit that via the musical soundtrack of Howard Shore, and particularly the production design of Stefania Seller and the costume design of Cassia Waleka Maimon, together with the wealth of set designers and production managers, is magnificently brought to life. The film looks beautiful, and I love two of director Scott Cooper's previous films, but there's something missing here, and I can't quite put my ink-stained finger on it. Even a surprising twist couldn't save it in my affections. And that was The Pale Blue Eye from 2022, directed by Scott Cooper. And I leave you in peace and in solidarity. And I thank you so much for watching. Peace, everyone.